Happy Halloween, folks. Welcome back to another episode of Canucks Conversation, brought to you by Bet365. We're coming to you from the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studios. Visit shoptoyota.ca or visit your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. My name is Dave Quadrelli. I am joined by Harman Dial. Right off the bat, people are pumped to see the costumes. I burst out laughing when I saw yours, Harm. Where did you get the green hard hat?
A family member helped me out there.
Nice.
But yeah, it's funny. It has my last name on it because we're obviously related. I got my construction vest here, and I've got this massive clipboard with a really important message. Just in all caps, safety, because that's what we're all about here. Only thing I'm missing.
Have you sent that message to the Canucks?
I mean, this is clearly Rogers Arena is not a safe work environment right now. I might need to go in and shift from a construction worker to safety inspector and see what's going on down there.
Yep, I like it. That's really good. I've talked about this before. My one summer where I worked construction, I was a laborer the summer of grade 11 on a construction site. And when you're a new guy, they tell you to wear a green helmet because you're green. And I was like, I'm not doing that because my dad was a crane operator, and he was like, don't wear a green helmet. So
I got a green helmet on right now.
I think it's hilarious. I love it. It's so good. And no, someone's confused what I am. I'm the average Joe's from the movie Dodgeball. You've seen that movie, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Just making sure. Yeah, the average Joe's. I really like this costume.
Average Joe's, so most of the Vancouver Canucks roster right now.
Wow, that is like so uncalled for after a 4-3 shootout win, Jacob. That's crazy.
Did you see who carried the play most of the night, though?
The hospital Canucks.
The hospital Canucks. Hey, good for them. Holy cow, let's get into it. Let's get into last night's win. Canucks beat the Blues. Our opening segment is brought to you by our friends over at Greta, a great spot for all games, home and away. You can skip the line and not have to pay cover on game nights if you're wearing the home team's gear. And of course, there's also the game day specials at Greta, including $3.33 off select food items, $3.33 on select drinks, and more. With the arcade, bar, and treat food menu, make Greta your spot to watch the big game. 50 West Coast Overstreet is the address. Let the games begin. Man, we thought that the Kiefer Sherwood game was the 4-3 overtime win over the Edmonton Oilers. Nope. It was the 4-3 shootout win over the St. Louis Blues. 2 games later, Kiefer Sherwood somehow tops that miraculous performance he had against the Edmonton Oilers. Kiefer Sherwood was the Canucks last night, and he's always been like the engine of this team. Him, Connor Garland, you get those steady performances. But man, he was phenomenal last night. And again, gets the hat trick, tied for the league lead in goals. What can you say about Kiefer Sherwood at this point?
I mean, he's putting this team on his back. Last night, 24-12 time on ice. Over 24 minutes right off the bat. 5 shots, 9 shot attempts, 3 goals, but also hit the post on his late first period.
That's
chance
right.
At least Pettersson set him up on. Play driving numbers were terrific. Couple things stand out. First of all, the second goal, the bag of tricks this guy has developed on breakaways is unreal. He dangles like he's a damn superstar. And it'd be one thing if it's all right, he did it once, but he's doing it over and over again. The way that he, as he was approaching the slot, sold the shot, which you have to respect as a goaltender, by the way, because he has a violent release with the leg kick and then the sweet move to the backhand. That's a really high skill play. And then the third goal from that location where Aturatu's original shot was blocked, a bit of a weird angle. A shot from that location would usually be looked at as, oh, that was a bad goal that the goaltender gave up. But no, this is actually a case where that's just a pure snipe. And it was actually very reminiscent of the game against the Habs that I covered last weekend, where from the near exact same spot, Sherwood generated so much velocity from such an awkward angle where he didn't actually have a lot of leverage, where all he really had to use to generate power was the flick of his wrist and his arms. And it came out like a missile. And I remember turning to PJ because on that shot, it actually missed the net. But I turned to PJ in the press box and I was like, the amount of velocity this guy generates from that awkward position is crazy. I don't know if there's another guy on this team that does that. And then from that nearly identical position to then beat Jordan Binnington, go bar and in. I don't think there's another Canucks player who can make that shot from that situation. Not Elias Pettersson, not Brock Boeser, not Jake DeBrusk, not a lot of the top snipers in the game. That was a straight up violent release. It just exploded off his stick.
Naturally, this is going to segue into a conversation about what do you do with Kiefer Sherwood, and that's what's dominating the chat early. Let's save that conversation for anyone else. Let's save that conversation for anyone else as we continue to break down last night's game. Sherwood is the main story, obviously, but I also think it's important we throw some flowers to Kevin Lankinen. I've been saying it for a while, and I know people are getting tired of hearing about it, but Kevin Lankinen needs to play at a level that is at least close to what Thatcher Demko is giving them, and I thought he did that last night. Maybe one goal that you would have liked to have back if you're Kevin Lankinen, but other than that, made some really big saves, made the saves he needed to. Like that's the big thing, is made the saves he needed to, and then some. Like made some saves where you were like, wow, okay, we weren't expecting you to stop that one, but thank God you did, because now the play's going the other way. He kept them in that game early. Like that's what people need to remember. Kiefer Sherwood's going to be the story, and rightfully so. But that was a really important game for Kevin Lankinen to have, because you can say, yeah, we're going to split the goalies. We're going to make sure we limit Thatcher Demko's workload. You can say that all you want. This team's looking for wins, man. And if Demko gives you that much better of a chance, you're going to start to see that creep in where it's, okay, we're going to have to run Thatcher Demko. Even though we know it's not maybe the best idea, we need wins at the end of the day. Like, it's tempting. It's tempting for a team to do that. I'm not saying they should do that, but it's naturally what's going to happen if Lankinen doesn't play at that level. And I thought he was phenomenal last night, and for that reason, it's very important.
He played well. He needed that kind of win, but I'd actually say that I was arguably more impressed with how the Canucks held the fort down defensively, in the sense that they gave up a lot of shots. And I think Lankinen made a lot of saves on B grade quality chances. But in terms of true grade A's, I thought, considering how undermanned the Canucks were in losing Brock Boeser from the first shift of the game, to make matters worse, you were always expecting a game where you were going to be outshot and that you weren't going to control the puck for most of the night. But it's the difference between bending but not breaking. And I think from that perspective, they did a much better job in the latter 50 minutes of regulation time or so of clogging the middle, defending the rush against a Blues team that is really fast, that is really aggressive about sending players up the ice, attacking in layers. According to Natural Stat Trick, that was Vancouver's second best game of the season in terms of 5-5 expected goals against rate. I think that made a difference. Again, Lankinen saw a lot of rubber, but they didn't allow a lot of east-west backdoor plays, where earlier in the season, and especially in that first game against St. Louis that Lankinen played, there was a lot of that east-west movement that they were allowing, where the goaltender doesn't really have a realistic chance. Even, I think in the beginning, the Blues were able to attack with a lot of speed, and you certainly saw moments where they were dangerous off the rush, but there were also plays where I thought Vancouver's back pressure was a lot better. I think about a Dylan Holloway rush in the second period, for example, where he got the initial entry, right? And the Blues would get a lot of entries, but then when he was trying to drive into the middle, there were 4 Canucks players in and around that slot. You got legs and sticks and bodies all in the way, and he wasn't able to successfully get to the inside. You also look at how Sherwood's breakaway goal started. And it's funny because it actually began with the Canucks defensive mistake where Marcus Pettersson was stepping up the neutral zone aggressively, like this team wants its defenseman to step up, but he wasn't able to kill the play there. He got caught. But the big difference, which they haven't always had often this year, is the F3, who is Drew O'Connor in this instance, was able to recover in time and was in position to track back on the net front player. Now, this has such a knock-on effect, because once Willander, who is the defenseman back, saw that, all right, Drew O'Connor as the F3 is covering for Marcus Pettersson and has the net front guy handled, that gave Willander the green light to, all right, I'm going to close on the puck carrier who's on the wing. Now, I think it was Philip Broberg who was entering the zone. Now, because he has a defender coming at him, he has to make a move to get rid of the puck. He forced that pass into the slot. O'Connor broke it up, and after that, that's when Marcus Pettersson swooping in was able to collect the puck and spring Sherwood for that breakaway. And that's so massive. I was talking about it on yesterday's show. When you don't have the most skill, you need to have a defensive structure to rely upon. And it's so useful because if you're able to kill plays defensively, that gives you opportunities to attack. I think for this Canucks team, especially without Brock Boeser in that game, you knew that they weren't going to have many drivers who could actually take the puck to the inside on their own, that the chances they were going to have to generate were more so going to have to come from the Blues making mistakes, making turnovers because you're defending well, and then you can counter against the grain. That's what I thought the Canucks executed well. And even immediately after that Sherwood second goal, the next shift, it was the Blues looking to make a response. I know I jotted this one down. Braden Shen was bursting through the neutral zone with speed. All three Blues forwards ready to attack and jump into play. It's Sherwood flying in on the back check who is able to apply a lot of pressure and break that play up. So I think the team's defensive effort in front of Lankinen deserves a lot of praise, because even though it wasn't always pretty in terms of, they were hemmed in at times, they did, I think, a pretty good job of ensuring that there weren't too many grade A's that Lankinen had to face.
All the ones that Lankinen made, and I think it swung the momentum in their favor. But you know what that game reminded me of? The final half of the game, the bubble against Vegas. Like that defensive effort, low shots, but making your shots count. That defensive effort, like that's what it reminded me of, is just guarding that home plate area so well. Now, I got to ask you, Harm, you're a stats guy sometimes, right? PDO. The Canucks PDO is going to look dreadful great. It's going to look, I don't know.
It's going to be really high.
Discredit. Yeah, it's going to be really high. But you just gave the context. And I think that's so important that, like, they played a really good defensive game. And yes, the Blues goaltending sucks, but like, I don't look at a performance like last night and be like, the only thing to take away from it is that it's super unsustainable and the PDO is too high.
Well, this isn't a way to win consistently long-term, but that's not what this team needs, right? You're going to get Quinn Hughes and Connor Garland back at some point. You're going to get these drivers. And when you're this outgunned in terms of skill and speed in your lineup, how you win has to look like this. And if you are able to defend properly, not give up anything easy, reduce your critical mistakes, that gives you the best chance possible to win in a way where, it's going to require a lot of shooting percentage efficiency. It's going to require pretty good goaltending and some bounces, but at least you're playing in a way that positions you to get those bounces and to get a bit of a fortunate, plucky result. So it's a bit of both, right? Where can you win like this 82 times in a season? No, of course you can't. Eventually you're going to run into teams that just that just overpower you, and you're not always going to be perfect defensively when you're under that much pressure and when you're that limited in terms of your skill. And there are going to be nights when you're just not going to have enough offensive juice, but they don't, like, they're going to get presumably reinforcements within the next week or so. So this isn't, they're not banking on needing to have to do this every night in order to have success. This is just a short-term temporary thing that they need to do to get through this time, at least until like Quinn and Garland are the two main guys that you're looking for, as far as hopefully they can come in and give this team a spark once they do re-enter the lineup.
Adam Foote was super complimentary of this team and their effort post-game. Let's just play the clip, Jacob. This was Adam Foote post-game. Again, mentions he's been here a while, and that was the best one he's seen from a come-together perspective. Let's hear what he has to say.
You lose best in the first shift, a good player like that, you're like, no, here we go again. And you just said at the battle, I just told him it's pretty incredible for me as a coach, and been here 2.5 years, maybe almost 3 years. And it's the best team win I've seen since I've been here, as far as being resilient. What our leadership group has done to allow the young guys to come in and feel comfortable, play with confidence, not get upset at them when they make those young mistakes is impressive. Because these young guys are giving us good minutes right now, and these guys up from the minors. And, even Lanks' game tonight, how he played was pretty good. So the team part of it, there were some mistakes, but that's okay. they're making mistakes too, and that's a good hockey team that's very desperate right now. They've lost 5, and I think they've got a couple guys out as well. But I mean, what's going on with our group to be that resilient is the key to build on.
Again, the Canucks lose Brock Boeser 33 seconds into that game. Ratsu leaves at the end of the first. Thankfully, he came back. But they're so shorthanded right now. And I want to highlight a couple parts of what Foot just said there. But the first one being, Harm, guy was here for 23-24. They had a lot of good team wins back then. The best team win he's seen since he's been here. You think the head coach is happy right now with what his team put in last night?
It's what he mentioned about you lose best on the first shift. It's so easy to go, oh, here we go again, especially against a Blues team that while they've been struggling as a whole, they also kicked your teeth in the last time these two teams met. And it would have been easy to get discouraged. You're out on the road as well. It's been stop and start in terms of this team's form and being at their best. And you knew that your only path to win was going to require a lot of guts, a lot of hard defending, a lot of doing the hard, ugly work to win, and it wasn't going to be pretty. But those are the moments where you really need a team to come together to be resilient. And credit to them, because a lot of guys are playing way higher up the lineup than they probably should be. But led by Kiefer Sherwood, of course, guys stepped up, and this is what I've said before, right? In small stretches, you can have moments where players, if a guy is a true talent fourth liner, he can play further up the lineup and give you better than expected results for a little bit. Same thing on the back end where, Tom Willander in that game was up over 19 minutes and looked pretty solid and reliable out there. You can get those kind of unexpectedly positive results sometimes in small samples. It just sometimes becomes a matter of, well, how long can they keep it up? That's always a challenge. But in the Canucks case, again, that's where you're hoping that you get some of your bodies back sooner rather than later.
We got a $10 super chat here, and we're going to lead off anyone else with it. So hang tight, but we appreciate the donation, $10 donation from Noah VCR. If you want to make sure your question or comment gets on the show, hit us with a super chat. Proceeds from our super chats will go to the BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. Another part of that clip, Harm, the Foot clip, talking about young guys making mistakes and the way the leadership group has allowed them to make those mistakes and not get upset. Again, I'm sure he's talking about multiple guys, but I look at a guy like Tyler Myers in that situation where you've got Tom Willander up. You and I talked about some of the mistakes that were made in that first game. Even Foot talked about it as well. He said, yeah, he's making mistakes, but the only way to get through that is getting those reps. And right now he needs to get those reps at the NHL level because of how banged up we are. Again, we talked about it on yesterday's show, but I asked Foot about it post-game the other night, and he was talking about how it's maybe it's not the most ideal situation that he's playing in these situations, but this is what we're doing right now, and he'll be better for it in the long run. The long run didn't take long because Tom Willander played more than DPD last night, more than P.O. Joseph, and Harm, I texted you about this as well. That was a really good game for Tom Willander. Decision making without the puck, decision making with the puck, really good. That first game he played, his NHL debut, I was sitting with Tom. I told you this. I counted 3 or 4 just bad pinches by Willander. I didn't count any. Maybe one last night. Maybe one. But cleaned that up immediately. Being able to adapt like that matters a lot. And again, I think he was playing a little conservatively. Obviously, the pre-scout of the Blues is, hey, they're going to attack off the rush a lot. Don't get caught. So I'm sure he was aware of that. But I thought it was a really solid game for Tom Willander in game number 2.
Yeah, any rookie that's thrown into a high leverage spot like that and all of a sudden goes from, or you're playing 12 minutes a night and you're mostly sheltered in terms of your matchup. So, all right, you're well over 19, and that means you're going to be playing against some higher skilled competition. The biggest thing that I look for is just to the best of your ability, avoid the loud mistakes, avoid those pinches that you mentioned, try and be in the right positions as best you can. On the breakout, it's not always going to be pretty, but just avoid the devastating turnovers that directly lead to grade A chances against. And I caught maybe one mistake in the first period where, I don't know if you want to point the finger at Willander or DPD, but either way, they got crossed up and it led to an inner slot chance. But outside of that, I didn't really catch many blemishes in Willander's game. We'll see now. It's just a matter of, all right, first game, the reads weren't always there and on time. In this game, there were. Well, what happens moving forward? And can he build on that and hopefully gain some confidence in himself that he can hang at this level?
Anything else from last night's game that you'd like to talk about? Any stats that you'd like to discuss?
You were reading my mind, because this is a good time to transition to the stat of the day, which is a presentation of Uber Eats. Uber Eats is enabling fans to maximize their fandom all season long with exclusive game day deals on the app, from game day eats to paper plates and napkins if you're hosting, to all the ingredients you need to make your favorite game day dip. Before, during, and after the game, Uber Eats is assisting every fan's hockey experience all season long. #crave the stats. I didn't just want to bring up one stat today. I wanted to bring up multiple, centering around a name you mentioned earlier, Tyler Myers. I thought Myers was an unsung hero in that performance, and overall this year has been really solid against the Blues. Over 24 minutes of ice time. The shot attempts were 20-12 in favor of Vancouver at 5-on-5 in those Myers minutes, which is saying something considering Canucks didn't always have the puck for long stretches in that game. He was head-to-head against that top-line duo of Shen and Buchnevich, so playing tough matchups, and he did it with P.O. Joseph as his main partner. Those two played about 13 minutes together at 5-on-5. Myers was just always in the way. That's the best way I can describe his impact last night. Positionally sound, using his length and reach to disrupt shot lanes. There were some moments where the Blues thought they had an opportunity to drive into the middle and generate a quality opportunity from the interior, and Myers' stick would be in the way or just stepping up in certain spots. He was playing a really tight gap. I thought he was steady in that game and has been a big reason why, alongside Filip Hronek, the Canucks blue line has been able to stay afloat and not get caved in too egregiously without Quinn.
Could have said it better myself, so I won't try to. Yeah, Myers in the chat getting a lot of love. Matt Friesen said, love how Myers always steps up in the neutral zone. Michelle says Myers doesn't like too much space in OT. LC250 says, feels like when Myers picks up speed, players just want to avoid getting hit by a train. I get that vibe from Tyler Myers too, actually. When I watch him play, it just seems like guys kind of want to get off the tracks a little bit with Myers. Yeah, he's been good. He's been good.
It's also, I want to say it's also important because we had some question marks about, all right, Adam Foote wants these defensemen to play more aggressive, be more active. And we know that Myers' game has typically been better when it's simpler and he's playing within himself and not taking too many risks. Whereas you could think of previous Canucks seasons where when he is asked to do a little bit too much, all of a sudden he's pinching in the wrong spots. He's putting himself out of position defensively, getting caught up the ice, and it's leading to odd man rushes against, right? He and OEL defending the rush had some pretty tough moments during OEL's second season as a Vancouver Canuck. Some of the brutal giveaways that we saw in some of those seasons as well. Myers is one of those players that for the first few years, up until Rick Tocchet came in, he alternated between having a good year and having a down year. But really the last 2-3 years, I think he's become a much more consistent player. Really, I can really only point to the first 6 weeks of last season when he was on a pair with Carson Soucy, where it felt like, oh, Tyler Myers is struggling. And I think that was mostly a Carson Soucy problem because as soon as those guys were separated, Myers went back to being just your typical steady Eddie. So massive props to him. And I actually think he's maybe outplayed Marcus Pettersson so far.
I like that. I like that theory. The Myers is kind of the engine on that line. Someone was hating on Marcus Pettersson a little earlier. That call on him was so soft. Like the penalty call, I thought it was so soft. I don't know. He's been fine. Pettersson's been fine, but I agree with you that Myers is kind of the straw that's been stirring the drink there.
Yeah, I think Marcus Pettersson has more to give. Again, tough context, tough situation he's been thrust into. But I think Myers stepping up has been able to offset Marcus Pettersson being fine, but maybe not being at his sharpest.
Yep, 100%. All right, let's get to anyone else, which is a presentation of Pacific Toyota dealers and the Toyota Prius plug-in hybrid, a no-compromise approach to electric vehicles that offers the best of both worlds. You can drive up to 72 kilometers on the battery alone, then seamlessly transition from electric mode to the gas engine for a combined range of 962 kilometers. There's no sacrifices when it comes to horsepower style with its sleek, low, and wide exterior and sophisticated interior. It's loaded with tech that's actually easy to use. Plug in to recharge at home or at one of the over 2,000 public charging stations in BC alone. And now you can lease a 2025 Prius plug-in hybrid SE from $99 weekly at 3.49% APR for 64 months with $3,600 down, and it includes a $3,000 discount. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. All right, we've got a few anyone else's. People said, aren't you supposed to be in studio today? Yesterday, someone made a joke about Harrison Price kicking us out of the downtown studio. Today, that actually happened. I'm joking around. It was just a bit of a miscommunication between us and our pal, Matt Karras. So we did not end up in the studio today, but we will be there at some point. Maybe not in costume, but we will be there at some point soon. Let's start with the super chat. Like I said, we would. Noah VCR, he said, hypothetically, what does a return on Quinn Hughes or Kiefer Sherwood realistically look like if it comes down to it? Obviously, we want to keep them, though. By the way, costumes look good. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, this is the thing with Quinn Hughes. If you go out and say, hey, who wants Quinn Hughes for the end of this season and another full season, you're going to get a lot of offers. You should get a lot of offers. So you're looking at multiple first-round picks. You're looking at, I would say, at least 2 impact players. I would try to structure it around younger players. But someone recently, we were talking about this, mentioned the Mark Stone trade, right? I remember Ottawa put out the call like, hey, we're going to trade Mark Stone, send your best offers. And they went with an offer that was very futures based. And I know Mark Stone is not Quinn Hughes. Like, I get that. I understand that. But the big draw in that trade package was Eric Brandstrom. And what the hell happened to him? So I don't know. Like, what do you think when it comes to a Quinn Hughes package?
Yeah, well, part of it would come down to what the Canucks would want.
What's your direction?
What's your direction?
Depends what your direction is. Are you going to rebuild finally? And let's just cut to the chase. The answer is no. They're not going to rebuild. Let's cut to the chase. Let's just gloss over that. They're not going to. Go forward.
And if you're going in that direction, well, then are you looking more to emulate the Matthew Tkachuk trade? As far as the Flames got back, and I know Huberdeau's, he had the largest single season point drop in NHL history when he went to Calgary, like in history from one season to the next. But Huberdeau was coming off a 100+ point season. So the Flames are thinking, all right, for Matthew Tkachuk, we're getting back a 100-point winger and a top pair defenseman in Mackenzie Weegar. And they got a first-round pick thrown in as well. At the time, a lot of people thought, whoa, the Flames got a lot from Matthew Tkachuk. And I think Quinn is the caliber of player where I don't think it's just going to be pure futures. They would want like a marquee blue chip piece that you would look at and go, this guy's immediately part of our core. It's not a question mark of whether he reaches his potential or not. But I think if the Canucks ever got to that point, and of course, we should always clarify, we're talking about a worst case scenario. No one here wants to trade Quinn Hughes. This is if things really go off the rails and you know for 100% certain that you're not able to re-sign him for whatever reason, then only are you going in that direction. I think then part of it also comes down to if you wait until the summer and he's extension eligible, well, then how many teams would he be willing to potentially re-sign long-term with? And at that point, how wide of a pool do you have? Because if it's just New Jersey, then obviously the trade interest you're going to get isn't as high. But if all of a sudden, I don't know, the Florida Panthers think that Quinn Hughes would re-sign there, that they think he's on his list, well, then all of a sudden the Florida Panthers, would you be shocked if they threw around like, all right, well, we're going to have a healthy Barkov back. We're going to have Sam Bennett. What if we dangle Anton Lundell in a package to get Quinn contingent on him re-signing a long-term extension. Right.
This is what I'm saying. Like, go if you're gonna get a quote unquote win now piece, make it a young guy. I don't want anybody over the age of 26.
Yeah.
Like
So
Dawson Mercer comes to mind as well.
Yeah, although Mercer's not quite like he's a good player, but he's not like a cornerstone to kind of build around.
Sure.
But yeah, this is where timing's gonna make a big difference, and then as well, I think Quinn Hughes with an extension is much more appealing to teams than Quinn Hughes through next season.
Yep,
sure. And that's part of the reason why the Hurricanes were able to get a ton for Mikko Rantanen.
Yep, 100%. Yeah. Now let's transition this to a conversation about Kiefer Sherwood, who's obviously a big topic of conversation right now. What is your walkaway price from Kiefer Sherwood? Because I think for me it's 4 years, $4.5 million. Someone was throwing out like $6 million for Kiefer Sherwood.
No.
And look, I also think I think I would rebuild the team at this point. Like I would try to execute a rebuild if I could. I know that might not be on the table. So you would try to extend Kiefer Sherwood, I think, because that he's the exact type of guy you want. But I don't know. I would try to maximize the trade return for him if I could.
Well, if you ask me what should the Canucks do with Kiefer Sherwood, what I would do right now is wait and see, because to me, this isn't a Kiefer Sherwood question. This is a what direction is your franchise going question. If the team, as you get bodies back, starts to round into form, you're playing winning hockey, and you get to the new year, January, and all of a sudden you feel confident that, all right, we are in the fight for playoff rise, and we still do have a path to staying competitive and keeping Quinn and all of those things, then absolutely Kiefer Sherwood is a player that you want to keep. And even though it'd be pricey, you would want to entertain, all right, what does it cost? And let's explore an extension. And keep in mind that January is also around the time that the Canucks extended Andrei Kuzmenko 2 or 3 years ago. That sort of makes sense when you're not doing it right before the deadline, because at that point you don't have, you're cutting it a little bit too close. But around the new year, when you have a better idea of what this team is, that's when you make that decision, because the alternative of, let's say this is just a cursed year where injuries are hammering you, for whatever reason, your goaltending maybe cools off a little bit, the offensive bounces dry up, and you end up looking like a team that isn't going anywhere, that you're just stuck in the mud. Well, then you're going to have some uncomfortable questions about what does Quinn Hughes' future look like. And if you are then pivoting we're going to have to take some steps back before we can take steps forward, then you have to keep in mind that Kiefer Sherwood turns 31 years old in March, and he would be a hell of a trade chip, especially if you're paying 50%. So to me, this isn't just a Kiefer Sherwood specific question. This is where is your franchise going question. And I'll be honest, the Canucks internally themselves don't exactly know what they have with this team right now. I don't think anybody does, because how can you judge what they are or aren't either way to this point? It's I think it's more direction contingent than Kiefer Sherwood specific.
I 100% agree with you. Same thing with Hughes, even. Like, I 100% agree with you. Okay, there's another one that I want to get to. Oh yeah, Jackson. Yeah, go on.
The other thing I wanted to mention with Sherwood, because I've been having conversations with some agents and execs the last couple of days for a story where I'm working on the projected skyrocketing of the cap and what impact does that have on market dynamics. And we know top players are going to be paid, but one thing I've been kicking around is, all right, what does this mean for middle class players in this NHL's new marketplace? Are they going to see the same inflation? And that's where, honestly, there's split opinions on whether the middle class is going to benefit as much from the cap rising. One of the big counterpoints that came up was, I don't think every team, once the cap zooms past 100 million, I don't think many teams are going to be able to spend to the ceiling every single year. Right? You think of the last few years, the flat cap era, pretty much every team, including mid and small markets, have been cap teams every year, with the exception of like a Buffalo or teams in that kind of range. They've been exceptions. But that I think is going to change. And that's a pretty universal opinion across people on the agent side and on the team side. And so you think about the knock-on effect of that. Well, if some teams all of a sudden moving forward are going to have internal budgets, we still know that they're going to have to pay their top players inflating salaries. What that could do is lower the demand for some middle-class players. And where this, I think we already saw a little bit of a sign of in this past free agency was with, like, I think it's a very case-by-case situation with middle-class guys, because some guys like Pius Suter didn't get paid, right? And it wasn't so much a cap it thing. It was more a term question. That's the big one, because Pius Suter, $4 million times 2, the cap it doesn't sound bad at all for Pius Suter, but only 2 years of term. He must have been really disappointed with that. Whereas you look at Trent Frederick, right? He's an example of a middle-class player that did get paid $3.85 million. Big difference is times 8 years. And that's $22 million of extra total value that he was able to garner. I think in trying to work through this in my mind about, all right, where does Sherwood slot? Is he going to be one of these middle-class guys that doesn't get paid as much? And maybe he might get the $4 or the $4.5 million cap hit, but he's looking at a shorter-term deal. Or is he Frederick style going to get a longer-term deal from somebody in free agency? I think an interesting trend is teams are willing to pay a premium for guys that have a rare physical profile, right? So the reason I think the Oilers were willing to go that long and invest so much in Trent Frederick is because they look at his tenacious style of play, how physical he is, him being a big body, and go, there aren't a lot of guys in today's NHL that play the game this way. He's a throwback kind of player. Same thing with Tanner Jeannot, right? Tanner Jeannot had 13 points last year. He got $3.4 million times 5 years. And it's because people look at him as a unicorn in terms of the physical traits. Sherwood, we know he's average size, so he isn't as imposing and intimidating as a Tanner Jeannot, but we also know he set the NHL hits record last year. And I think for a lot of young up-and-coming teams that, let's say, have speed and skill and maybe have cap space, Sherwood would probably seem pretty appealing as, here's a guy that you can throw into your top 9. He's a max energy player. He hits like a truck. He can give you 20 goals in the right spot. I do think he's the kind of middle-class player that will actually get the bag. And that complicates it for the Canucks.
100%. 100% agree with you. And the reason it complicates is there's a lot of reasons it complicates it, but the big one that stands out to me that everybody in the chat seems to be saying as well is we really like this player. He's a lot of fun
I
to
know.
watch, and he's a really good player, and he'd be great to keep around in Vancouver. So we'll see. We'll see which direction the Sherwood stuff goes. Jackson asked this question. Where do you think Lekkerimäki comes back? Where do you think Lekkerimäki goes when he comes back in the lineup, or does he go to Abbey once he's healthy? Depends how soon he gets healthy, because Mackenzie McEachern is in this lineup, and Jonathan Lekkerimäki would be in this lineup ahead of him. So he goes into the top 9. Like, I don't think you touch that Abbotsford line. I think that Abbotsford line should be your 4th line when everyone's healthy. What does that mean? I don't know. It'll be interesting, because when everyone's healthy is, kind of seems like a best case scenario for this team at this point. So we'll see. It's so hard to slot guys in when they're not even close to returning. And I haven't seen Jonathan Lekkerimäki skate. So if he was ready tomorrow, he'd play in the top 9, maybe even the top 6. But that's all I have to say on that one. Let's see. Oh yeah. Okay. Jacob, can you just throw any other hockey ones in there if we see them? Because I want to talk about Halloween. I really want to talk about Halloween. Oh, no. This one. Last one. Ismiwar in the chat said, did you guys think Evander Kane's goal was goalie interference? Evander Kane scores the goal, puts the Canucks up 4-3, looks to the heavens. Oh my gosh, thank God. I finally have my first goal as a Canuck. It's been so long. And then it's waved off due to goalie interference. Hey, speaking of Mackenzie McEachern, I did not think this was goalie interference. I really didn't, man. Like, I don't know. I was looking at goalie interference and I'm like, okay, did the player being in the crease or bumping the goalie, did he stop the goalie from making the save? That's how I look at it, at least. And I don't think he did. So I don't think that's goalie interference.
I totally get where you're coming from, but around the league, there have been some wonky goals similar to that one where you look at it and go, in previous years, that probably would have counted. But I think because there's a skate in the blue paint, the league seems to be hammering down on that and making a point of calling back goals similar to that, even if there wasn't a lot of contact that interfered with the goalie's ability to actually make a save. So I'm with you there. I don't think it really impeded Binnington's ability to stop that puck, but it's been, I think, consistent with some of the other calls around the league in the early parts of the season. So I can understand why it was called back, even though I don't fully agree with it.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. Mike Lavely, he said New Jersey has nothing to give us in a Hughes trade. The players we would want have the same last name, unless we go fully picks and get a guy like Nemec as well. Yeah, I don't know, man. It goes back to the conversation about direction. I don't think you can look at a Quinn Hughes trade and say, we're gonna just keep the team competitive. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like we've had enough kicks at the can of this that how many more management groups are going to come in and say, I just need 2 years to turn this around. And then by year 4, it's like, okay, you're fired because someone else said they can come in and turn it around in 2 years.
Yeah, let's hope they're able to stave off any necessity to talk about Quinn Hughes' future just by continuing to reel off some wins, because
hell yeah,
I really don't want to spend more time talking about trading Quinn when that's obviously just a worst case scenario.
And they just won.
Exactly.
Yeah. I want to talk about Halloween. All right. So I got the new house, obviously, as I've talked about on this show. This is my first year decorating the front. I've already got my Christmas lights ready to go. Not up. They're not up. I'm not putting them up yet, but I have them ready to go. I've planned out what I'm doing with Christmas because now I got a yard to, to decorate. And man, I got my pumpkins out. I'm ready to hand out candy to those kids tonight. I'm hoping I get a lot of trick-or-treaters, but the weather not looking great. I always trick-or-treated in the rain. I never had a Halloween where it was raining and I said, I'm going to stay home. So I hope the kids
Are you kidding me? I would trade getting rained on for chocolate all day long.
Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking is because, like, as an adult, I'm like, I wouldn't go out in this. But then I thought back to when I was a kid, I was like, I not once sat out Halloween because it was raining too hard. Like, you enjoy, but it's raining really hard right now.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you've looked outside.
Yeah.
Like,
shout out all the parents.
Yeah, exactly. Shout out to the parents, especially, again, you're going to be missing some World Series action to take the kid trick-or-treating. But honestly, I don't know. If I had a kid, I would for sure be taking them trick-or-treating tonight. No question.
Yeah, you have to. These are core memories for these kids.
And for, I don't know, I don't have a kid,
but
I'm excited to have a kid and go trick-or-treating with that kid. So I would for sure, 100%.
You're excited to also just dress up, and as the kid is going and putting out the bag, asking for candy, you're excited to just kind of finagle your way in there and ask for a little bit of candy too.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I got to inspect it, man. I got to inspect it.
I mean, you're young enough to you still look young enough to get away with it. I'm not going to lie.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. Cali Canucks said, I grew up in the interior. Sometimes it was snowing on Halloween. Yeah. You get out there. So kids, get out there. Parents, get out with your kids. I've got my pumpkins ready to go. I'm so excited. I love Halloween, but I love Christmas more. So I'm doing the Christmas decorations pretty shortly after Halloween for sure. I love doing that. But I've started to find my rhythm as an adult. Boxing Day, I actually put away all my decorations. They all go away.
Impressive.
When I lived at home and when I would help, obviously, my family, what we would do is we would always, get done sometime in January. Nope. Now, as an adult, I'm December 26th, everything's getting put away. I'm done. Might be because I start Christmas early, but I digress. Anything you'd like to add?
No. Is there anything in the chat?
No. Mostly Quinn Hughes trades. We're not doing it.
They won last night.
Quickly, we should say this as well. Canucks now head to Minnesota. Again, St. Louis had lost 5 straight heading into last night. Now it's 6 straight. Minnesota having their own problems to start the year as well. They've lost 3 straight games, and I think it was 8 of their last 9. Did I see that correctly? Or am I thinking of the Blues who had lost 8 of their last 9?
Could
Let me
be
pull up
either one.
Minnesota.
They've both been
They've
struggling.
both really struggled in the Canucks. And again, and you close out that road trip with Nashville. Could you imagine if the Canucks win 3 games on this road trip? And we were like, oh, if they win 1, it's such a, you're like, that's what we expected because you're so banged up. If they rattle off 3 wins, I don't care how much those teams are struggling. That is impressive for this team.
Of course, yeah. They're at a skill deficit in every one of those games, despite those being struggling teams.
Yeah, so Minnesota lost to Pittsburgh, Winnipeg, the Sharks, the Mammoth, and the Devils. So they've also lost 5 straight heading into tomorrow night.
Minnesota, they haven't lost 5 straight, but they're 2-5-3 in their last 10.
What do you mean? Yeah, they have. I'm looking at it. Right
now. Sorry. Okay. Yes. But there's some overtime losses in there as well. Obviously,
you still lost.
I haven't lost 5 in regulation. When you say,
I didn't say regulation. You lost.
Fair enough.
You know what? Pierre LeBrun at the Athletic is very he's so adamant about distinguishing between regulation, and I don't agree with this whatsoever, but he'll want to clarify and say winless streak, not losing streak.
Yeah,
you lost.
That's generally
what in the participation ribbon is this? You lost.
But it matters in the standings, right? Like losing 2 of their losses came in overtime. That's 2 points. It in the standings works as a win. I agree with you guys, but in general, I understand people like Pierre LeBrun when they phrase it that way, because overtime losses give you a point. This goes back when we had Sarah Nurse on the show a couple weeks ago. 100% think they need to go to the 3-2-1 point system, because that helps eliminate these kind of semantics.
Yeah, I'm never going to call something a winless streak. I'm calling it a losing streak, even if it's 10 OT losses in a row.
Okay, so like I said, the Wild have lost 5 straight, but don't worry, everyone. They got close in a couple of those games. They were really close. They put in a really good effort, and that counts for something. Right, guys? I kid, but yeah, they've been struggling. This season. It hasn't been great for the Wild. So we'll be back on Monday to break that one down and to preview the game against Nashville to close out that road trip. Anything else from either of you?
I think I'm good. Go Jays.
Go Jays. Let's go. Oh yeah, there is hockey going on. Wait, what the hell? The Avs and
1 p.m. start.
Okay, I didn't know that was happening.
Okay, I'm actually really annoyed at that. I guess maybe not today because I'm gonna end up watching the Jays game anyway. Yeah. But on Friday night, sometimes I just end up staying in and I want to watch hockey, and there's usually nothing good on.
Yeah.
And so today I was like, oh, you get a Colorado Vegas game? Like, oh, I might actually watch that. And then I see it's a 1 o'clock start. I'm like, what is this nonsense?
100% agree. 100% agree. All right. We are taking. Jacob, is there can I specifically bet that Yamamoto's going to give up a run in the first inning? Yes, I can.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they have first inning.
Okay. I'm doing a run in the first inning at plus 115 odds. That's what I'm taking. Yamamoto is a fantastic pitcher, struggles to settle in a lot. Jays make a lot of contact. I think they pounce on him early. You can get that, a run in the first inning at plus 115 odds over at Bet365. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get it on the game. Use the code NATION at Bet365. Must be 19 plus play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. We'll close it out there. Happy Halloween, folks. For my co-host, Harmon Dial, and our technical producer, Jacob Lazar. My name is Dave Wajelli. Thanks so much for the episode of Canucks Conversation. Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.